Hey guys, this is Diablos from Skillcap, and this is gonna be a guide on how to pick your target when playing as Enhancement Shaman in Turbocleave. In this guide we're gonna be covering what you should be doing when the enemy goes for a healer, as well as what you should do when they're going for you as Enhancement Shaman. As well as we're gonna be covering on how you should be positioning yourself offensively and defensively. We're gonna go through 3 different comps that are currently being played, one of which is a melee cleave with 2 melee DPS and a healer, caster cleave which is 2 caster DPS and a healer, and then a hybrid which is 1 range DPS, 1 melee DPS and a healer. For each of these comps there is going to be 2 different tactics that we're going to go through, one of which is when they decide to go for you, and the other one is when they decide to go for your healer. Starting off melee cleave, let's take a look what you should be doing when they decide to go for you. Okay, in this example we're going to be using TSG as the melee cleave, which is DK Warrior Holy Paladin, and they're going for your Shaman, which is you. Now you have 2 options. You can either go for their healer or you can stay on DK or Warrior. This again depends on what kind of warrior you're playing with. If you have an arms warrior, you can cleave more, you can create more pressure from 2 targets, but if you're playing Fury, you can do more single target damage, which means that Paladin is probably the best target here. Now let's assume that you're using a Fury warrior and you want to go for their healer, and this is exactly what you need to be doing in order to kill the Paladin. Now the first thing you want to check is your positioning. You want to positioning line of sight from their healer. That will make the DK, the warrior, line of sight their healer as well. So when the DK goes behind the pillar, the Paladin follows, and as soon as the Paladin comes closer to the pillar, your Paladin is gonna rush in for a stun. On that stun, you're gonna switch on the Paladin without chasing him. Now that should already force some defensive cooldowns from them, but if it's not, you have to use a shockwave hex on the DK and warrior. So you would shockwave the warrior and DK into a hex on the warrior. That will make sure that there is not going to be fear or shockwave from their warrior. Now let's take a situation where they go for your healer. That means again you have to choose your tactic. Either you go for their healer or you're gonna go for their DPS. Let's assume again that you're playing with a Fury warrior that has more single target damage, and you decide to go for the Holy Paladin. This time it's gonna be easier for you to connect on the healer, so you can just straight go for the Holy Paladin. The warrior and the DK most likely are not gonna peel back to save the Holy Paladin. Now there is gonna be moments where your healer is not gonna be fine. He's gonna die if you leave him alone, and that's when you have to peel him. In order to peel, you have to minimize running as much as possible. If the opponent Paladin already used the bubble, of course you can go back and try to stay on the warrior to make him use like a defensive stance, or go for DK to force him in the blood presence. But if he hasn't used any defensive cooldown, the best way is to have the Paladin come to you and have a double shockwave on the warrior and DK, which will be continued by a hex. So you would hex a warrior after he's done with the stun. Or if you're playing with a monk, he should be able to survive just by paralyzing DK and leg sweeping the warrior. Now at this point we're pretty much done with the melee cleave. These tactics, if you apply them on any melee cleave, should work. It doesn't matter if it's a TSG or a Turbocleave, a mirror. The only difference is that it depends which map you're playing on. For example, if you're playing on Blade's Edge, going for a monk as a Turbocleave is going to be really hard. Again, if you're playing with an arms warrior, single target damage is going to be way lower, so killing a healer on a blaze edge with a monk is going to be really hard. And that's about all for this time. I hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. If you want to see the next and the third part where I'm going to be covering the caster cleave and hybrid comp, make sure to subscribe at skillcap.com. I'll be leaving a discount link in the description below, and see you guys next time.